My family, which includes me, a 38-year-old woman, my husband, a 42-year-old man, and our two kids, a 6-month-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, are friends with another family, which consists of a 46-year-old man, a 46-year-old woman, a 6-month-old son, and a 3-year-old son, as well as an older couple in their early 60s. We spend a lot of time with each other as we are next-door neighbors. We have all been friends for about 6 years, which is essentially all the kids' lives. As you can imagine, from time to time, there has been conflict, largely around parenting styles between our family and the other family with children. For a long time, I considered the other mother to be a very close friend. We spent a lot of time together. In the last 12 months, I feel she keeps trying to actively find fault with me, my husband, and our kids. My husband and I are happily married. We are building our dream home. My work is fulfilling, and my children are generally happy, doing well in school and well-liked. I like to keep the peace generally, but I have found that in conflict, she is not open to other points of view or opinions, is extraordinarily hypocritical, and generally antagonistic. She has a lot of criticism, particularly towards my husband for things she is more guilty of. She is very critical of my son's behavior, yet her own son has severe behavioral issues. To date, I have just tried to ignore the criticism and projection, but it is increasingly difficult. The older couple we are friends with are great. In the more than 6 years we have all been friends, they have been nothing but wonderful and are godparents to our children. To promote overall harmony in the group, I have never mentioned any conflict between us and the other family to the older couple or any other person. Recently, I found out that the other mother has been pretty consistently and frequently speaking badly about me and my husband to the older couple. I am so enraged that she is carrying this conflict over to other parties. It feels like she is trying to get them to gang up on me, which they wouldn't, but still, it seems extremely inappropriate. It feels as though if she can't win an argument, she just keeps nitpicking and trying to find alliances until she can revisit it. I feel like I have had to hold a lot back to keep the peace, and she is at least attempting to get the other couple to be critical of us as well. I was extremely angry when I found out about this triangulation. It's childish and unfair. I feel like it's a type of bullying. It's not only that she has been talking badly about us to the older couple, she has also been doing it to other mutual friends. For example, she claimed that my son had a stutter and that I was a bad mother for not taking him to speech therapy. My son actually has a vocal tic. Speech therapy is ineffective for vocal tics, and he has been under the care of a neurologist for 18 months. I told her about it when he was diagnosed, and it's possible that she forgot about the conversation. However, she had every opportunity to ask me about his speech, and I would not have minded. As a side note, her son has a severe lisp that I know for a fact she has never sought any treatment for. I have never mentioned anything about her son to anyone else. There are times when I feel this mother is very envious of my job, my marriage, my children, and my appearance, so I think that a lot of the criticism is actually projection. She likes to dominate her personal relationships and can be very selfish. I'm upset because I feel her need to be right or win seems to be more important than the harmony of the group. If you reflect her behavior onto her or challenge her in any way, she becomes extremely defensive and angry. I don't really want to be friends with her anymore. I can't trust her, and when I see her, I have to fake being nice. I try to act like everything is normal. I don't want to break up the trio of families, and I get the impression that the older couple would be really annoyed if we couldn't work it out. I am also stuck being next door to them. What should I do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm sorry this sounds like a nightmare, especially living next door to her. I wonder if the older couple, or even other mutual friends, have also noticed her critical and confrontational behavior. It seems like a lot of toxic people rely on other people being nice in order to engage in their bullying tactics. It's likely your other friends don't appreciate her behavior and don't take what she says as fully truthful. If you feel close enough to them, you could try bringing it up and see what their feelings are. If there is a lot of agreement, I'm sure everyone would be open to decreasing social engagement with her as a group while remaining civil as neighbors. Now, for the update. 3 days have gone by since that awkward encounter with the other mom. Honestly, it feels like a weight has been lifted, even though I know what's coming next. So, my family decided to throw a birthday party for my youngest, and of course, we invited all the families in the neighborhood. We really wanted to keep things neutral and maybe even somewhat festive. Spoiler alert, it didn't go exactly as planned. The other mom showed up with her son, acting all friendly, chatting with everyone like we were the best of friends. I was like, okay, this is fake, and I'm not buying it. So, I made myself scarce, serving snacks and talking with other parents who weren't trying to stab me in the back. But then, the other mom started her little comedy routine, making these snide remarks about my husband while laughing it up with the other parents. At one point, I caught the older couple, who are also our kids' godparents, exchanging these concerned looks. I could tell they heard her too, and it made me so mad. Like, I don't care how thick your skin is, you can't just ignore that kind of crap. After the party, I found out that the other mom had been spreading this ridiculous rumor about my husband being irresponsible. I mean, come on. So I finally decided enough was enough and shot her a message asking if we could talk privately. I figured I'd confront her directly instead of stewing. She agreed, but only if we met at this local coffee shop. Probably thought she could play the innocent card in public or something. When we met up, she acted like she had no idea what I was talking about. I called her out on some specific comments, and she just laughed it off like it was no big deal. I was so done at that point. Later that week, I got a call from the older couple, the ones who looked concerned at the party. They wanted to meet for dinner and talk about the, situation in the neighborhood. I'll admit, I was a bit nervous about it. I didn't want to drag them into our mess, but I also wanted to update them on everything. At dinner, we talked about the other mom's behavior, and they really listened. The husband even shared some stuff about conflicts they had in the past, which I found surprising. Turns out, they had their own issues with the other mom that they had kept quiet about. That really inspired me. I was like, if more people knew what she was really like, maybe this would stop. So I came up with this plan to expose her behavior in a way that would be hard to ignore. At the next neighborhood barbecue, I decided to invite more families and include the older couple. I thought their presence would help lend some weight to what we had to say. So, during the barbecue, I started this group discussion about community support, respect among families, the usual warm and fuzzy stuff. The other mom tried to steer the conversation to her usual criticisms, but I was ready for her. I just redirected the conversation back to the positive stuff we were trying to build. The older couple totally backed me up, sharing their own experiences without naming any names. It created this atmosphere where the other mom felt increasingly isolated. She was starting to get it. The defensiveness was obvious. She tried to change the subject, but I calmly addressed her past comments in front of the group. I swear, her face turned red. That's when my husband chimed in, confirming that he had heard the comments too. It was definitely a moment. The tension peaked when one of the other parents directly questioned her about her behavior. Honestly, that took guts. She left the barbecue in a huff, muttering angrily as she walked away. Once she was gone, the atmosphere lightened up. Other parents expressed relief and support for me, which felt so good. I actually started to believe that we could make this neighborhood better. Afterward, the older couple thanked me for taking a stand. They mentioned they felt empowered to speak up about their own issues with the other mom. The neighborhood dynamics have completely shifted. Families are feeling more united against negative behavior, and it's about time. The other mom has since avoided confrontations and has been a lot quieter. It's like she knows the game has changed. That barbecue was definitely a turning point for us. I've been considering organizing more community gatherings to foster these positive connections. We really need to keep the momentum going. I'm not saying everything's perfect, but we're getting there. One barbecue at a time. Edit. It's been a week since the neighborhood barbecue, and things have really changed. The other mom hasn't caused any drama, and a few parents have even approached me to share their own stories about her. It seems like more people are willing to talk now. The older couple has been great too. They've been helping me organize more community events, and we've had a good turnout so far. It's just nice to see everyone coming together and feeling a sense of belonging. Am I the idiot for pushing my boyfriend to go on a trip despite his family issues and health scare? We have been planning a 5-week overseas trip since earlier this year and are due to depart next month. Everything has been booked and organized, from flights, accommodation, and the overall day-to-day itinerary, all done by me. We have been together for 4 years and have never taken a trip together that was longer than 6 days. He decided this week that he doesn't want to go on the trip as it's not the best timing for him. About a month or so ago, he decided to look into buying his first property and is in the midst of finding something suitable. Last week, one of his close family members had a serious health scare. We have also been finding ourselves butting heads lately about our ideas of quality time and how to manage this, as we have fairly conflicting schedules. These conversations are mainly driven by me wanting us to schedule time weekly based on our schedules, and also as a way to encourage him to be more involved with how we spend time together. I basically want security that we will schedule intentional quality time to grow our relationship and connection, as sometimes the spontaneity around this has left me feeling unfulfilled. These conversations have led him to also tell me that our relationship isn't in a good place and it would be a waste to go on holiday together, as it won't be enjoyable. Now, I completely understand his worries about traveling when someone is in ill health and have tried to reassure him that if something were to happen closer to the trip or during it, we would make the necessary decisions around that. When it comes to the property, I'm a little less understanding, as this trip was locked in much before he intended to buy, and it was always a consideration we would discuss when looking at things like settlement dates, etc. He made this decision knowing that we had a holiday booked, so I feel like this reason isn't as valid. In terms of the relationship, I was under the impression that we had decided on a suitable and achievable solution, which we had begun to implement, so I wasn't aware that this was even a factor. Given that this was an issue that was driven by me, I felt satisfied with the outcome. I also want to reiterate that I told him I understood his reasons and was trying to work out a way for us to still make the trip work, as a lot of it involved what-ifs. What if something happened while we were away? What if I missed out on a property? What if our relationship doesn't improve? We have had a few discussions over the last few days, which have basically been him telling me we aren't going and to deal with it. I have tried to approach these conversations with the mindset that we are a team and should work together, as it involves and impacts both of us. However, I feel like he has been a bit stubborn and selfish. I am also very disappointed, given that I have put a lot of time and effort into planning everything, and even more so, given that I have been begging for quality time in our relationship, which this trip would provide. I'm not sure if I am being unreasonable, but I feel like he could have at least offered some sort of solution. A simple, "Hey, I don't think this is the best time for us. Can we look to reschedule?" would have gone down a lot better than just saying we are canceling the trip without any consultation with me. He makes me feel like I'm being unreasonable and asking for too much in the relationship when I feel like I'm just asking for the bare minimum. I had even suggested that we reschedule, only to be told that he wouldn't be able to commit to that, knowing that our relationship isn't working, despite a noticeable positive change in our relationship since we implemented this change. Today, he also told me that he wouldn't be able to commit to our discussed solution long term. I'm confused by this, as us making the time to spend together is basically the bare minimum of a relationship. There is no relationship if you aren't spending intentional time together. Are my feelings unreasonable or selfish to think that we can still make this trip work despite his listed reasons? In his mind, he's told me no holiday, and given his reasoning, so I should just accept that. I also asked how he would make this up to me, given how disappointed and upset I was to be losing this trip, and was told that he wouldn't be. This has been an ongoing thing in our relationship, When confrontation is involved or things get hard, he gives up and takes the easy way out, leaving me to try to problem solve and keep the relationship afloat. I don't know what to do about the trip, and even more so about our relationship. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm getting that vibe too, unfortunately. It just feels like another one of those times when things get difficult and he tosses me to the side because I'm an issue and it's an easy way out of his problems. Comment 2. Yep, I'm definitely considering this and making the most of the opportunity. Everything is organized, so it would be a waste even if I do have to go alone. Now for the update. Just under a week after the last convo, I sat down with my partner to talk about our trip again. I was hoping we'd find some middle ground, because honestly, I was about to lose it. So I brought up the original plan and laid it all out. Yes, we had a plan. Yes, it was a good plan. And yes, I was still super excited about it. The dude seemed distracted though, like scrolling through listings for properties on his phone. Like, really? Right now? I had to ask him to put the phone down for a moment just so we could talk. It's not like I was asking him to give up property hunting forever. He reluctantly agreed, but kept glancing at his screen like it was the most interesting thing in the world. I pointed out how much planning had gone into this trip and how excited I was. I mean, we had been planning this for months, and I felt like I was talking to a brick wall. He just shrugged and said he didn't think it was the right time for us to go. Wow, thanks for the enthusiasm. I reminded him that yes, we had been planning this for months and now all of a sudden it's not the right time. He started in on how overwhelmed he felt with everything going on with his family. That's when I thought, fine, let's try to compromise here. I suggested we could just go for a shorter trip instead. What was his genius response? Even a shorter trip felt like a waste given our current situation. Yeah, not exactly the most helpful attitude. The next day, I went to my parents' house for dinner, and the first thing my parents noticed was that I seemed off. Yeah, no kidding. They asked what was going on, and I explained the situation about the trip and my partner's reluctance to go. My mom, being the ever-optimistic person she is, shared stories of how trips had helped strengthen her relationship with my dad. My dad chimed in too, saying that taking a break is important. Yeah, thanks, Mom and Dad. I went home that night with their advice swirling in my head, still trying to figure out what to do next. So, I decided to take a different approach and sent my partner a message about a potential compromise. I mean, I was trying here. I suggested he join me for just the first week, and then he could return to handle his property search. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, he responded that he still didn't want to go at all. There it was again, me hitting a wall. So I reached out to my sister for support. She's usually got her head on straight, unlike some people. She invited me to a family barbecue happening on the weekend, which I gladly accepted. At the barbecue, my sister's fiancé pulled me aside and asked how things were going with my partner. You know, just the usual pleasantries. He suggested I stand my ground and make it clear how much I valued our trip. Like, really make it known. The next morning, I decided to be more assertive. I told my partner that I wanted a serious convo about our relationship. He agreed to meet at a local diner, but I could tell he was still reluctant. At the diner, I laid out my thoughts clearly and told him I needed his support. I made it clear that I understood his stress, but that I needed him to show commitment to us too. He seemed to consider my words, but still wasn't ready to agree to the trip. After all that, I suggested we take a day trip that weekend to see if a smaller getaway would help. He reluctantly agreed, and we planned to visit a nearby beach. That Saturday, we went to the beach, and I noticed he was more relaxed. I mean, the guy wasn't glued to his phone the whole time, so that was a win. We talked about our future, and he even shared some of his worries about the property. After the beach, I brought up the trip one last time, explaining how much it meant to me. He hesitated, but eventually agreed to at least reconsider his stance on the full trip. By the end of the week, he finally told me he would go on the trip. I was honestly shocked, but in a good way. Our plans were back on, and we finalized the reservations and talked about what we wanted to do while we were away. Thank you for reading. Mini update. My partner and I went on the trip together. It was a much-needed break. We communicated more openly, and he even proposed during a hiking trip. We're engaged now. Am I the idiot for breaking up with my boyfriend because he refused to grow up and get a job? My 25-year-old boyfriend, who is 24 years old, and I have been together for almost 6 years now, and I'm struggling with his lack of motivation and direction in life. We met in college, have since graduated, and at first it was fine because we were fresh graduates and the job market is terrible. I was able to find a full-time job almost immediately, but he struggled because he had an arts major, which I understood. However, after a year of unemployment, I begged him to get a part-time job because some money is better than no money. He is honestly the sweetest and kindest person I know, completely unproblematic other than the fact that he has no motivation to do anything with his life besides unrealistic dreams. After being together for so long, we've obviously talked about our future and marriage. We both still live with our parents, and I want us to be moved out together before marrying or starting a family. He hates his part-time job but refuses to look for another one. He insists on finding something related to his degree but doesn't make the effort towards it. He is not a people person, has no networking skills, and doesn't have a portfolio for any type of arts-related job. I really think he believes something will fall into his lap. He makes so many promises to better himself, telling me he wants the same things as I do, but I have seen absolutely no actions or attempts to work towards those goals. For the last few years, I have been holding on to hope that he means what he says and that he will change for a week before falling back into old habits. A lot of the time, I feel like I'm his mother. I have to remind him to eat, remind him to exercise, remind him to look for jobs, and remind him to do any little thing. He has no issue with chores at home or playing video games all day or doing anything that's fun and enjoyable. He has sent me videos and screenshots of online assessments that suggest he might have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or autism, but he hasn't made any efforts to be tested for it. He was able to live alone and graduate college without much issue, so I'm not sure how much that plays into it. I'm so tired of it all. I feel like I have double the stress because I worry about him and myself. If anything, I worry more about his future than mine. On top of that, living separately makes me feel like we are barely in a relationship. When we see each other, it's only for the weekend, and all we do is lay in bed and have intimacy. My drive isn't even high anymore, but I do it for him. Another thing is his family. I love his parents and they love me, but I'm starting to grow resentment towards them. They have babied and spoon-fed him his entire life. If he doesn't like something, he doesn't have to do it. I can't wait around for him to finally want to do something with his life. He does have wants and dreams, those of which I find incredibly unrealistic, but I support him regardless. But he has no backup plans, and he doesn't want a backup plan, which would be fine if he even tried to work towards his plan A, but he doesn't. I've brought this up to him so many times, and I get empty promises in return. I've done everything I can to help him. I've been nice, I've been mean, I've been manipulative, and I've been begging. I get so upset over it, but he is so comfortable in this relationship that he feels no need to change. I hate that it's come to this. I love him so much, we've been together for so long, but I'm losing attraction to him. I'm anxious thinking about our future. I don't even know when our future goals would be met at this point. When we graduated, we thought we would be moved out by now, but we are still at the starting line. I don't need him to be ambitious to the extreme, but I need him to at least try to work towards something, anything. Honestly, I am the least ambitious, least motivated person I know besides him, so I can understand, but I at least try to work towards stability. I can't build a life with someone who doesn't think beyond what they will do the next day and believes they only want to do the fun things in life. How do I rip the Band-Aid off and just do it without worrying about the time and effort I've spent on this relationship? Am I being unrealistic myself and just asking for too much? I can't tell if the lack of motivation is normal, and at least he has a part-time job, which is better than nothing, or if it's a real issue. This has gone on for so long. My brain has been trying to rationalize everything. I have moments of clarity once in a while and think I need to break up, but then my judgment gets cloudy thinking about all his good traits. I don't know what to do. Thank you in advance for any advice or tough love. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Thank you. I guess there is also a fear that I won't find anyone else, that this good enough will actually be the best I get. I work from home and keep only a handful of close friends, so I don't get out too much, but I am also a homebody. I'm not worried about being single in the short term, as I have been considering it for a while now, but the fear is for the long term. I'm also concerned with how my family will react because they love him, and it's hard to keep it private because I still live at home. Hearing that you didn't settle does give me hope that I will find someone else like you did. May I ask how long after and at what age you met your husband? Comment 2. Well, you have thought about this a lot. You are just asking us for validation, and I think you have very valid reasons to break up with him, in my humble opinion. Having an arts degree doesn't mean he cannot get a job. For example, he can teach the arts or do some graphic design. In his shoes, I would try to pursue a master's degree, one that would give me a job. Maybe you can compromise with an ultimatum to see if he wakes up, but if you do that, be ready to really follow through. Better now at 24 than later at 34. Now, for the update. A few weeks after I posted, my boyfriend and I had a family dinner at my parents' house. I invited him because I thought it would be a good chance for him to connect more with my family. My parents were pretty excited to meet him since they'd only seen him a few times over the years. I mean, who wouldn't want a little family bonding? So, dinner was going okay until my dad asked him about his job. You could literally feel the guy get tense. He kind of mumbled something about still looking for a position in his field. My younger sister, Kate, then mentioned a friend of hers who got a job right after graduating, and there was this super awkward silence. I mean, obviously, we all felt it. My boyfriend tried to change the subject to his art projects, but honestly, it was like no one was listening. No one cared. After dinner, while my mom was cleaning up, I overheard my dad asking her if my boyfriend was good enough. I was crushed. I know my dad means well, but this was just not how I wanted things to go. I mean, come on, give the guy a chance, please. So, later that week, I got a text from my boyfriend saying he wanted to talk. We met at our usual spot, a small diner, and he seemed so distant and distracted. The conversation got heated quickly, and he accused me of being unsupportive. He stood up and left the diner just like that, and I was left there, feeling so confused and alone. The next day, I found out he had canceled our weekend plans without telling me. Like, seriously? I texted him to ask what was going on, but he didn't respond for hours. By this point, I was getting really frustrated. I decided to just show up at his apartment to talk things over. When I got to his place, his door was slightly open, and I heard voices inside. I knocked and went in to find him with some friends, drinking and playing video games. He looked shocked to see me and quickly introduced me to his friends. The vibe was so awkward, though. He was way more into hanging out with them than talking to me. After about an hour, I decided to just leave. I was done with the weirdness. A few days later, my family planned a weekend getaway, and I invited my boyfriend. He said he needed to work on himself and wanted to stay home. I mean, this is the same guy who told me he wanted to work on our relationship, but okay. During the getaway, my brother Jake revealed he and Rachel were having a baby. The whole family celebrated, and I was happy for them. But part of me felt sad thinking about what was happening with my relationship. Like, I should be happy too, you know? When I got back home, I found a letter from my boyfriend in my mailbox. The letter outlined his feelings of inadequacy and his decision to take a break from our relationship. He said he loved me, but needed space to figure things out on his own. I just sat there, reading it over and over again. The following week, I decided to focus on my own goals for the first time in years. This was all so new to me. I signed up for a new course related to my job, and it felt really good. I was doing something for myself, and honestly, I needed that. Edit. After the breakup, my boyfriend and I agreed to stay friends. He even came to my birthday party a few months later. We're both just focusing on ourselves right now. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.